The trip down memory lane continues. Today we're looking at the best games from 2003. Starting off at number 10, the hit cartoon TV sitcom The Simpsons as a brand had been trying for years to really crack the video game code with varying degrees of success. The original arcade game was great, the wrestling game was kind of fun, there was Road Rage, but then there was the Grand Theft Auto clone, Hit and Run, and it may have been the perfect formula for one of the best Simpson games, and honestly, one of the best cartoon TV adaptations to video games. Hit and Run puts you in the shoes of various well-recreated and properly voiced Simpsons characters plopped right into open world Springfield. From here, you drive around all types of vehicles from the show, like a maniac racing and crashing through stuff, but also getting out, talking to other famous characters, and doing random missions. Sometimes you're punching enemies or platforming. Hey, a lot of it boiled down to collectathons, but it was still a lot of fun because it felt so much like the show. You're driving the Plow King truck through the power plant, you're doing platforming and finding collectibles hidden above the Quickie Mart, and then there was some great spooky Halloween treehouse of horror content too. The gameplay was fun, the driving was cool enough, the environments had great exploration with tons of fun hidden stuff to find, and most importantly, the jokes were pretty funny. Next up at number 9, we have Call of Duty, the one that started it all. Yes, the very first Call of Duty game launched in 2003, and it's wild how many we've gotten since then. Originally launching as a PC exclusive and not hitting consoles until 2009, Call of Duty shook things up a bit. Not that it did anything wildly different, but it was just a super solid World War II shooter. One thing that it did do differently that set itself apart was your AI squad. Most war shooters up until this point were way more lone wolf, which always felt a bit odd for war shooters. But Call of Duty put a bit of emphasis on your AI teammates, and they actually did something. They actually mattered. They reacted to what was going on in the game, so it wasn't scripted or anything. So if a grenade went off, they knew that there was a grenade going off. They reacted. They didn't just run headfirst into the blast radius. It also offered up a great campaign that didn't just focus on the American forces. You got an American campaign, a British one, and a Soviet one, which was really cool, getting to play as these different forces and seeing the war play out from 3 different perspectives. It also had such a solid multiplayer. It was really good. I actually still know someone that still religiously plays it with a group of friends as of a few years ago, actually, which is insane. Moving on to number 8, we have the Rockstar San Diego developed Midnight Club 2. One thing that's really weird about Midnight Club 2 right off the bat is it's a racing game with 0 licensed cars. Yeah, they may have been based off of other cars, but not, actually licensed ones. Which is kind of funny. It makes sense in their other games like GTA, but considering this is all car focused, I don't know. Thinking out loud. Anyway, the story took you across the world over 3 different maps, LA, Paris, and Tokyo, and they were all open world. There really weren't barriers either. If there was a drivable surface, you could drive on it. There wasn't anything keeping you on the tracks. There was also some really cool damage here as well. You had a meter that measured how damaged your car was, but you could also, physically see the damage on your car itself. It was honestly just an all-around solid racing game. It didn't do anything totally insane, but everything that it did do, it did very well. At number 7, this next one is a personal favorite of mine. We gotta talk about Freedom Fighters. This one is awesome. It's set in an alternate history where the Soviet Union dropped an atomic bomb on Berlin and ended World War II, becoming a world superpower, slowly starting to take over the globe surrounding the US. Eventually, the Soviet Union launches a surprise invasion in New York City. You play as Chris Stone, a New York plumber who's on the job with his brother when the attack hits. Your brother is captured, but you manage to escape. You then spend the game saving him and fighting for the resistance and trying to take out the Soviet Union. Yeah, the story wasn't amazing by any means, but the combat, setting, and atmosphere is what really ruled here. Running around destroying New York City streets and fighting on Ellis Island was awesome. The game also had surprisingly good AI. You could get your own squad of freedom fighters to follow you and fight alongside you, and they weren't dumb. They actually helped out and made a difference. It also really helped to sell that you were a freedom fighter trying to take back New York, seeing that you were in destroyed New York and also rallying the troops to your cause, Unfortunately, we never got a sequel to this one, but I'm still holding out hope. Though Interactive split from Square Enix, they did take the Freedom Fighters IP with them, so who knows, maybe when they're done with Hitman, they'll jump on over to a new Freedom Fighters. At number 6, alright, so Prince of Persia, The Sands of Time marked a big turning point in the series. While the first 3 Prince of Persia games weren't poorly received. They were all fairly basic, like the first two side-scrolling games or the 1999 3D action-adventure game. That said, they were still, fun as hell. Then 2003 rolls around and we got The Sands of Time, a new entry from a new developer and publisher, now a full-on Ubisoft game. Sands of Time took the vibe and spirit of the original games and pushed forward. It did so by completely overhauling much of what you would, come to expect from a Prince of Persia game and adding in some really cool mechanics. You're still a prince, you're still doing Prince of Persia type stuff, but now you have this really cool dagger of time, which you can use to correct your mistakes and do stuff like saving yourself from a bad jump or even freezing enemies in combat. It had a really cool and challenging combat system that, would absolutely kick your ass at times, but when you pulled it off and completed a difficult encounter, you really felt that sense of accomplishment. Oh, it also looked incredible at the time, and honestly, it doesn't even look that bad going back. And if you haven't checked it out yet, come on, what are you doing? Next, at number 5, we have Beyond Good and Evil. This is a huge fan favorite and has a bit of a cult following. You play as an investigative reporter known as Jade, and you're working with a resistant movement to reveal a planet-wide alien conspiracy. Sounds simple, but it's in a completely unique universe. The world here seems to be what really caught people's attention. It was sci-fi as hell with spaceships and such, but animals and humans coexisted. So it had this unique charm, which on the surface level may have been a little cutesy, but ultimately it was darker than that. Still, there were characters you fell in love with throughout this adventure, filled with some really cool slashy combat, some tense stealth sequences, taking photographs with your trusty camera, some platforming and puzzle sequences, and traveling around in your hovercraft. It was kind of like a bizarre mashup between a sci-fi platformer and a bit of Zelda influence with a dash of stealth mixed in. And it was the perfect mix apparently, because people still love the hell out of it. Thankfully, the remaster holds up too. At number 4, Need for Speed Underground is just one of those games that released at the perfect time. The Fast and Furious had released 2 years before, Too Fast, Too Furious also released in 2003, so the world was all about street racing and the cool, crazy cars that went along with it. So Underground released at the perfect time and really capitalized on this new fad, and it was great. First off, the actual racing in this game was intense. There was a real sense of speed, you really felt like you were flying down the street and you could lose control at the last second and go from first to last. It really sucked when it happened, because it did happen. Mixing in the nitrous and the drifting was also awesome. With there actually being a drifting mode, here was all about drifting. You got more points for longer drifts, which really changed up how the game played. There was also a drag racing mode, which also felt super different from the base game. Here you had to use proper shifting, use your nitrous at the right time, and not blow out your engine. In terms of game modes and variety, Underground really knocked it out of the park. You think that there isn't much to do with a racing game in terms of changing up the gameplay, but Underground really pulled it off. Then came the car customization. That's where it really got awesome. Getting to do all that awesome stuff we just talked about with a car that was customized by you, for you, it was just unreal. At number 3, we have Jak 2. Man, what a game. Coming off of Jak and Daxter, which was bright, colorful, and fun, Jak 2 got a bit more dark. It took place in a futuristic city rather than a cute platformy forest type thing. It actually opens with Daxter saving Jak from some facility where he's been getting tested on for the past 2 years, and now turns into this white furred fury monster thing. Oh, and Jak talks now, and he's kind of a pissed off jerk. He's got some attitude problems. But yeah, Jak 2 was one of the games that succumbed to the open world game trend that was starting to really hit in a post GTA 3 world. So you would have free roam of Haven City and would start new missions by going to their marker, just like GTA. You could also hijack vehicles, which still gets me every time because it's a Jak and Daxter game, and here I am stealing a car like I'm freaking Tommy Vercetti. Also, to go along with the game getting a bit more darker, they gave you a dang gun. You could straight up shoot men. The morph gun was actually a pretty cool weapon. As the game went on, you unlocked more mods for it that made it fire differently. Jak 2 was just straight up a blast. It's definitely one of my favorite games from the PS2 era, and it holds up surprisingly well. So if you haven't played it, maybe think about giving it a shot. It's a really good platformer. Coming down to number 2, we have The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker. Trading in crude attempts at realistic models for a bold, stylized, cel-shaded look, it's no surprise that this one aged so much better than so many other games of that era. Even now, it still looks so darn good. Just look at this thing. But looks aside, Wind Waker did so many things right, from its fun, seafaring adventure story that clearly links it to the previous games in the Legend of Zelda series, lore-wise, to the really smart and interesting interesting dungeon design, there's really just so much to love with this one. The improvements on previous gameplay systems, specifically the increased fluidity of combat, the ability to perform counterattacks and use enemy items, as well as the way the camera controlled, it was so much better. Definitely helped to elevate the experience as well. Now, the game got a Wii U remaster in 2013, which is probably the best way to play it if you can get your hands on it, but I mean, honestly, the original GameCube version still looks and plays pretty good considering, and is always a solid option if you ask me. Finally, at number 1, there are many contenders for the best Star Wars game of all time, and every conversation has to have Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. This ambitious, sort of traditional styled RPG did a lot, not only for Star Wars and the more mainstream embrace of some cool expanded universe lore, but also elevated BioWare to new heights. Of course, they were already great, but now they're like gamer household names, even despite some recent misses. Combat was fun, you could pause the game and plan your moves, you had companions that you could order around and develop friendships with, and of course, when lightsabers showed up, it gets way more fun. There was tons of loot and lots of side story to really flesh things out, and the light and dark side morality system was absolutely fantastic. In RPG fashion, you'd make story and conversation decisions, be a good guy, get access to Jedi class powers, abilities, and perks, be a real jerk, and get some cool Sith powers like Force Lightning, and watch your character slowly change in appearance due to Force corruption. There was nothing more satisfying than rolling a character in this game exactly how you wanted, all while exploring exciting, expanded universe planets and learning about the legendary Darth Revan. It still mostly holds up too. Every Star Wars fan should play it at least once. Real quick before you go, we have some bonuses for you. First up, we have Crimson Skies. This one is such an awesome plane game. Plane game? I hate how that sounds. This is more of an arcade game than a simulator game, and the way it controls makes it a blast to play. Then we have Command & Conquer Generals, which is now pretty much an RTS classic and a great one in the varied Command & Conquer portfolio. Then we have Max Payne 2, The Fall of Max Payne, and you know that we love Max Payne over here, and Max Payne 2 is no different. Max is back, he's still sad, he still loves to slow down time, and this time he's joined by a playable Mona Sachs. Finally, we have NBA Street Volume 2, the very good sequel to the very good NBA Street. I don't know what it is about these first two games, but they always seemed like magic to me. Basketball games were always fun, but taking them off of the court and onto the street just really did something that made them really stand out. And those are our best games of 2003, but we want to hear from you, so meet us down in the comments and let us know what you think. As I'm sure you already know, hitting the like button really helps us out, and if you're new here, subscribing is a good idea because we put up videos like this every single day. As always, thank you for stopping by and hanging out with us. We really appreciate it, and we'll see you next time right here on GameRanx.